Ow! December 26th, 2000. Merry Christmas! And maybe it will be Happy Hanukkah too in the future. Grandpa Howell shared the most fascinating story during Christmas dinner last night. We had everyone over, seated elbow to elbow around him, so it was quite the public statement. He was even standing in his Reverend Grandpa Howell way, like in church. Aunt Nora and Uncle Zeke were obviously here in opposite styles for a fashion too. I guess since they're regulars for Christmas at the Fingal residence, Zeke bulges in his khakis, held in place with suspenders over his sweat-stained polo. Nora wore a deep green dress, the color of a pine tree, but the texture of a presents box. They live in Michigan, by those dunes they have, but they drive down to see us for birthdays and holidays. They're actually the only extended family I see on a consistent basis. Mom's brothers live too far to travel to Northwest Indiana with any regularity. I heard for a long time and have now witnessed that Midway Airport is never a fun place to go or spend endless hours at, nor do they make it pretty to look at. But O'Hare Airport, which is prettier and more fun, is further into Illinois. So when if my uncles flew their larger families to see us, as often as Aunt Nora visits, she doesn't have kids, they would create quite the hassle for preparations. I couldn't imagine the chaos. Grandpa and Grandma Howell fly every year from Florida to see us at Christmas. They're retired though, so that means they have more money. Or at least I think that's what happens, right? We pay into retirement and social security with our taxes, as dad's always complaining about in car rides, like to the larger, farther airport, O'Hare. So when we retire, we get that back. Sounds nice. So with all that retirement money, my grandparents travel a lot. Like if you list a country, my grandfather will probably ramble off a mission story about God turning lights on in a small church where they prayed in Guatemala, or helping the safari jeep out of the mud before the rhinos struck in Zimbabwe. Even teaching about Jesus to 50 children at the same time in Laos when America was bombing Vietnam. They're such a brave and faith-filled couple. I am just all ears when they're sharing about their international adventures for Jesus. Included in the extended family sitting around our enlarged with more wings table, one of my mom's unmarried cousins, Wilhelm. But we say it Wilhelm, not Wilhelm. Wilhelm joined us for Christmas. He usually only comes for Christmas and Easter, holidays when extended family meet in our household. Farther away family only come at Christmas and not even every year. His burliness reminds me of the man on those paper towel rolls who wears red plaid. Even though Wilhelm was a bigger and stronger look, his voice and handshake are quite soft, in fact. He's nothing like my father or Uncle Zeke. My Grandma Howell is his aunt. It is crazy to me how family trees work like that. My sister is my mother's sister's niece, right? But Wilhelm is just my cousin. Though I think he gets more one of those once removed or second added to the front. It feels rude to call a cousin removed, but I don't invent this stuff. The 10 of us enjoyed Mom's Christmas ham, mashed potatoes, roasted carrots, and beets. Dad's turkey, Aunt Nora's 7-layer salad, and turtle cheesecake. I don't think Uncle Zeke does anything in the kitchen. He usually sits watching news and complains about the AC not working strong enough. Even in the winter. My grandparents don't bring anything either, but they fly away from Florida and bring Marv's presents. They get a pass. And Grandma helps Mom in the kitchen during holidays, while Grandpa rotates from one group of a family to the next, slipping into preacher mode by the fourth or fifth minute of conversation. They were wearing maroon suits-like outfits today. They usually coordinate colors pretty well. Wilhelm brought a dessert too, but it never made it to the table since it was a store-bought one. Mom always thanks him for his holiday contribution, something like a bundt cake, but we put his treats in the fridge for about a week before enjoying them. Good kids like Mom's fresh goods better than store-bought stuff with preservatives anyway. I never eat as much as others, probably because I am the youngest at a lot of our family gatherings. My fear of remaining small forever has me wanting to eat more and grow big like Dad, Wilhelm, or Grandpa. They don't look like they get bullied or pushed around too frequently. My dad's side is leaner, but they're not weak. I mean, they used to work for the mafia. They weren't allowed to be weak in situations like that. I'm the one who feels weak. My aunt slices through the ham on a bigger platter for serving around the table, looking up through the bottle cap eyeglasses, and tells me while her curly hair bounces that I can never finish my dinner after snacking like a bird on the hors d'oeuvres table like Grandpa and Leona. We're grazers, my dad says, eating a little bit here and there, but never big meals. If Grandpa got strong and brave being a grazer, maybe I will too after all. Now, Leona actually gets stomach aches if she eats too much food at once, or if the food's too rich and fatty. That's what she says. And I mean, she says chocolate makes her stomach upset. Maybe she could try fat-free chocolate one day. I don't know. Does it exist? Grandpa was showing us how to really enjoy the snacking table setup. Mom sets up before holiday meals, a real smorgasbord, as the Swedish chef would say on the Muppets. Leona had on the very adult-looking Christmas outfit this year. No ripped jeans or joke-based sweater about Rudolph. It was a denim skirt, dark leather boots, and one of those puffy blouses Mom wears to church. I noticed how childish I appeared in contrast, wearing a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Christmas sweatshirt and corduroy pants. Maybe it's time I update my look with the new year coming. We are joking. We were joking with the toothpicks, stabbing mini pickles, green olives, Vietnamese pickled carrots, and even gefilte fish, which we both need to balance out with the thick wafers Grandpa typically doesn't eat. He always tries to show us how to do it like a real connoisseur of pickled foods. He did grow up in Europe before the World Wars, after all. Holland, I think. Is that where Amsterdam is? That's how he pronounces it. The transition from snacking table with Grandpa and Leona to the dinner table meant squeezing my Skinnington body between my more robust family members who are older and sit precisely in the middle of the table. On a metal chair, too. The more elderly families at the dinner party got the better chairs, with Grandpa always getting the best, then Uncle Zeke, then my dad, then Grandma, in that order. One year, because my mom is the youngest in her extended family, when we had her older brothers over, even my mom was sitting on one of our metal folding chairs. It was a full house, as they say that year. Maybe 3 years ago. It was before the 1999 scare that had everyone thinking the world would end. Maybe because we were still in a bit fearful from the Y2K scare, and he is growing older in years. Story time during family supper got more historical. It was after we had filled our plates with the first round of plate passing and portion filling, since we sit in a large oval around all the dishes of food. Passing dishes and platters in a sequential part of is an essential part of dinner at the Fingles. The topic that Christmas night from Grandpa's soapbox, as Dad calls it, came from before he met Cinderella, which is the nickname for Grandma. I didn't know much about his time or life before America when he was a kid in Europe. How odd to think of my grandfather as a teenager when he sits, and now he sits at 80 with his offspring and relatives seated around him. What did he wear? I mean, it was the 1940s, so the fashion was different. Was he cool? Did he struggle like me? I know he was really good at learning languages. He speaks 12, but maybe being good at foreign languages never earned me cool points or more friends, and maybe not with him either. Last night on Christmas, we heard a description of his life with his siblings in Amsterdam that brought up questions like even his own children, my mom and Aunt Nora. It looked like they were hearing some of this for the first time as well. That was the most interesting part. It started as one of his miracle stories. Grandpa has a lot. He was thanking God for how he managed to survive the Second War by enlisting in the American military. It had known that part was, explained by Grandpa to how he got to America from Europe and met my grandma. What I learned new is that my grandfather's dad, my great grandfather, who I never met, was a missionary to non Christians in Europe between the world wars, saying that some countries had become totally atheist, which opens the door up for complete evil. Being the son of an American father in Europe earned my grandpa automatic dual citizenship, which meant landing his language skills to the U.S. Army because um, that was easy. And that's what allowed him, as he explained, to not only enter America, but allow his father's footsteps, follow his father's footsteps in the ministry, and then he became a chaplain. Simply knowing lots of languages opened so many doors, made me too, before he decided to join the military or left for boot camp, however it works. Grandpa got kind of angry looking different from uh, this typical joyful of Jesus grin as he began retelling history. German troops were invading the countryside, the city of Rohingya. These were more foreign-looking features whose names needed to hide and leave with their wealth, because we were hearing about prisons for Jews, the gypsies, and communists. I didn't think anything worry about it since we were Christian missionaries. His pause to sip some water made him look like he was at one of the many pulpits from his preaching, and then he continued. So we were arranging to depart for London and New York, splitting up the men in the four corners of USA and England for my mother and sister, who was only 16 then. She had some classmates who were Jewish, We all did. We never knew what happened to them. I was thinking into America, Africa, British controlled Egypt, not Africa, America, Great Britain. So many farewells, Godspeeds back then. Never showed our tears in departure. I hid them under Wearer's Wind. Buried them afterwards. After rest, before the biggest news. My sister heard back from one of the clothespin patterns while we were finishing our school in London, and we went back and forth for a while, and life later, she got better. And it's the letter she got before my mother told her to stop writing. She read some very disturbing information. In it, her friend, having lived in the same large estate as us, wrote about the secret police knocking on the door to ask for my mother's whereabouts. Where's Frauheim? Which means where's Mrs. Heimer, my mom's maiden name. Also Hebrew for life, Grandpa showed. My sister never sent another letter from England. Uncle Zeke broke momentary silence. But many non-Jewish families have names like Chaim, right? It cannot mean that we're actually Jewish. We just celebrated Christmas and we're eating ham right now. No one puts bacon in the 7-layer salad even. He can start yelling really quickly, Uncle Zeke. No one stops him either. If any of my siblings or I tried yelling, we would be slapped. My mom yelled at my dad while sucking on a bar. Hands open in the bathroom. It always makes me throw up. which they make me clean up afterwards. I mean, I made the mess, so I gotta clean it up. And it's all part of the punishment for disrespecting mom and dad with a foul mouth. Isn't that one of the Ten Commandments? My father took a big gulp of his beer. My siblings looked a bit like they had just become saddened, maybe like they were feeling guilty or ashamed. My sister even dropped her fork to the plate with an I gotta leave. She threw a napkin on her unfinished Christmas dinner, standing up so fast it made the table shake. She's not large. She's very strong for a girl. Well, she's actually an adult now. She's strong for a woman. My sister is strong for a woman. She gonna make a mean boss. Cool. But yeah, the chair would have fallen back if the wall wasn't close behind it. She had been sitting opposite side of me at the table, so in the middle, but with more of a pathway for a rapid exit. As she demonstrated, it got so awkward after that. No one spoke or really ate even. It was only Grandpa, in fact, that was still eating his dinner, as if nothing was weird. I mean, he did live through two wars, the European one and the Vietnam one as a chaplain. A Christian one, too, while being Jewish all along. Grandpa just outcooled Leona with his calm attitude. So cool. The negativity this news appeared to bring in my other family didn't make sense to me. It was very sad my grandfather's family had to split up and not see their friends again. But why would being Jewish mean something bad? Doesn't the Bible call them God's first chosen people? Called out from Egypt through murderous Moses and his brother with a speech impediment Aaron? Anointed by 40 years in the desert of Sinai and brought victoriously into the land of Joshua? Why wouldn't I want that heritage too? The only part that shook me quite a bit was that Grandpa Howell waited until his 80s just to tell us that the family escaped the terrors of the Holocaust because of the great great grandfather's American citizenship. He could have written a book about that. Dang. To me, that felt like a proud legacy to inherit, nothing to be ashamed of. Darling, my sweetest young child, your food always tastes marvelous. Grandpa broke the silence. Sometimes when I remember that he has hearing aids, I think Grandpa just turns them down and says whatever he wants. He's our family's patriarch. I mean, if using that word right, right? And only now do I realize how cool he is. They're going back to Florida tomorrow, leaving. Even though Grandpa broke the silence and my mom did smile at my father's compliment, at her father's compliment. Both sisters, my mom and Aunt Nora, hesitated, saying until my dad finished his beer and changed the subject with, "Who's ready for some of Aunt Nora's homemade cheesecake?" Dad signaled to our family, minus Leona, that the conversation was put out of mind, not to be discussed at all. Except here. Shaylin Art Fingal.